to talk music, audio gear, and anything else that crosses our minds. I'm Mark.
And I'm Peter.
And welcome to the Hurton Audio Podcast.
So today we've got a great treat for everybody listening because we are joined by the amazing Brian Vega from Fearing and a new project as well, Lover's Guilt. Do you want to say hi, Brian?
Yeah, how's it going, y'all?
You've been using Reason for like a while, as we found out in our pre-conversation to this. So how did you actually get stuck into using Reason in the first place?
Honestly, I was just looking around. Honestly, I was pretty young, so I was just looking for anything that I could like torrent, you know, like anything I could just get for free.
Yeah,
like
we all start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And nothing was that easily accessible, so I just like that was the first one, and then eventually like I think Reason 6 came out, and then I like wanted to upgrade because of the new features, so I just like had to buy it, and then from then on I've been like purchasing every upgrade since.
Because I think we started on, we went to college for it to start with, so we'll have been exposed to Reason 5, but I think I didn't actually get it till Reason 7. So we sort of started at a similar time with Reason.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know they taught it in school.
Not quite school, but I mean, I suppose school, the Americanized use of the word school is very different to how we use it in the UK, because you probably mean like college and university as well, don't you, when you say that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because in the UK, when somebody says school, for some reason, I don't know why it's different, like regionally, but it very much means like high school.
That is weird.
Like nobody in the UK would say school for college or university, and it's just one of those weird things because we all see it in like a lot of the American TV, and so I know that that's what you meant when you said it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What university was it?
We went to Hull College, our local one.
And we did a music production BTEC, then a degree in music production, and then music technology. So
technically speaking, it would be the Open University, which is sort of like a blanket university, like across the full UK. But certain actual like colleges and establishments did it as their degree, because every university has a different sort of degree that you get, which is confusing. But Open University, Hull College.
That was our introduction to Reason. That was the first time either of us saw it. It was one of the few doors that they had. They had 4. Reason was one of the 4 that they taught with.
And you got to decide which ones you wanted to learn, or they just kind of put it on you?
It was really just whichever one. So they're very much like on the first one, on the BTEC, it was like a lot aimed at Cubase with a bit of Pro Tools and stuff. And then on the degree, there was very much like, you really want to be using Pro Tools or Ableton.
That was it, really.
Reason is there. And then there was sort of like, don't bother using Cubase. And I was like, but Cubase is pretty good. So we actually, where we sort of got Pro Tools, Ableton, Cubase, and Reason in our studio.
Yeah, I have Reaper, Reason, FL. On my old Mac, I have Logic. Like, I know how to use all of them, but
yeah, you see, FL Studio is one that I've never actually tried, but it's very, very like, people really, really love it, and then some people really don't like it. Because I imagine if you're tracking a live band, I can't imagine anybody using FL to track a live band. I don't know why. I bet you could.
No way. Yeah, I don't know, actually. I haven't really recorded in there. It's easy because in Reason you can literally just press like the star key on my keyboard and I'm recording like one button.
I didn't even know that was the quick command for that. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's because I actually recorded, like, I lived in Oakland for a while, so I was recording rappers. I was making beats like for a long time, actually. Like, yeah, I would come through every day and just record. There'd be like 15 people at my house.
Whoa.
And we would just be recording all day. So I had to learn the commands.
So is this before your endeavors with Fearing and Lover's Guilt then?
No, it was actually during all of it. Like,
really?
I started around 2016. Yeah, I worked a lot with this rapper. His name's 1100 himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's blowing up right now. He's really good.
Okie doke.
But me and him, like right when he was first getting started, I made a bunch of his beginning stuff.
Yeah. So you've sort of like you've got your sort of. I'm coming up with a stupid analogy. I was going to say fingers in a lot of pots or pies or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Wearing all the hats, Peter.
Yeah, wearing all the hats is way better. Thank you, Mark, for saving me.
Yeah.
You're doing. You're making beats, but you're also like whenever you're recording anybody, you're having to put on that producer hat of saying, I like that take, I like this take, you know?
Yeah.
And then you're having to work with people and like you say,
exactly.
When you're having to use like the shortcuts and stuff like that, you're having to be focused, but also you're having to make sure the person you're recording with isn't getting bored, because that's when you're both in the same room, you have to always be ready to get that take. That's the hardest thing about producing somebody.
Exactly. I literally have to, I'm the only one in the room that's concentrating, you know, like everyone else is like smoking weed, chilling, and like they're like even trying to pass me like joints and stuff, and I'm like editing like so fast, like trying to go as fast as I can, like but it was cool the way we did it. Like they would punch in every line, like made it pretty easy.
Straight Outta Compton, that's like an iconic scene in that, where they punch in every single line to make sure he can't mess it up, like because that's the thing, he's having a problem. So was it that sort of approach in terms of engineering? Because I always would have thought when I watched that scene, I thought, God, do people do it like that? Because in a way that's so much harder, but once you've actually got every line, your comp's done, like your editing's done. Whereas if you track the song like 6-7 times, then you look and do your edit and you go, yeah, we just didn't get line 6. I never thought of it like that. Yeah,
exactly. No, it's actually easier, and I thought it was weird at first because it was their idea. He's just like, oh, let me just punch in, because it's kind of like freestyle in a way. They would like do one line, and then they would think about the next line, like as they were sitting there in front of the mic, and then they'd like think about it, and then we'd record it, and then they'd think about the next line. You know, like it was really natural, actually. It was weird.
Yeah.
Because I always like just recording straight a whole thing. Like a whole verse or whatever, and then like when I record for my projects.
Yeah, I was just about to say, do you think that stems from your projects?
Yeah, definitely. Like in one way, it's more organic feeling to me to just do the whole thing, but it's kind of easier to just punch in.
Yeah, you
know?
see, I have this thing because I record drums quite a lot, and I always want to get it in one take, and that's like how I know I've done a good job. But obviously, a lot of people, they time stretch it, they do every section by itself, and you know, there's a lot of workarounds where you don't have to be able to get it in one take. But I suppose that's where like a musician's pride comes in, and you sort of don't want anybody to even use a scissor tool or anything. So I've like built up a lot of like resistance against drumming to a click, which I know a lot of people hate and detest drumming to a click, but I've tried to use that as my skill when recording. But
yeah,
like you say,
that's an amazing skill.
I've always wanted to do it in one take, no mess ups, one full take, one say 3 or 4 minute take, and it's so difficult to do. And it's even more difficult when all of the computer technology of recording is tempting you to just fix it later. That's the real challenging thing.
For real. Yeah.
So going from these these like more rap based projects, as you said, how does that intertwine with Fearing being like a sort of French Coldwave influenced sort of goth post? There was a lot of words you can use to describe what Fearing is, and I found it really fascinating. Like shoegaze kept coming up, and when we listened through both your albums today, and it really did have some like shoegaze, like post-punk / like you could hear like a little bit of a new wave influence and all that stuff. Like, you can sort of hear like that darker soundscape to it. How did making that come about?
Well, honestly, through like when I first got Reason, I just started making a bunch of songs, and then the singer, James, me and him just started sending tracks to each other. He was using FL at the time, so we were just both pulling up like these crazy synths. Like,
yeah,
I feel like before anyone I even know was really even doing like that stuff. And then, like just all the sounds that were in Reason were like that. I was finding some evil stuff. Like it just sounded so sick. Like, so from there, I don't know. That's the same thing that attracts me to like the rap stuff. Like it's the same sounds that I use. I don't know, you know. So it was just kind of natural. Like we met up, and just like because we hadn't really met before. Me and him lived. I lived in Reno. He was living in Oakland. So then we just met up. And then just took our demo songs and then put them in a live band setting.
I was reading like how you've gone from having like a live drummer in the setup to going more, assumably having it like programmed and more groovebox orientated on the second album. How was that like in terms of production and songwriting?
Yeah.
Did you find that the album came together much faster? Because as we know, with Mike just talking about, recording live drums is a massive thing when you're producing a full record. So was it faster initially, like when you went with more like groovebox orientated production?
Well, everything was easier. Like for our first like EPs and our first album, we went to the studio. For this last one, we literally did it all in our room. Like I recorded it in my room, like my vocals and like my guitar parts. And then we programmed the drums in Ableton, because that's what James uses.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we actually mixed it all in Ableton, well, our version. And then we sent it to the studio to get mixed and mastered. So that was, yeah, it was way easier, way less expensive. We're like, we've been doing this for a long time. Like, we could just handle this ourselves.
Yeah, but do you like to have like the tried and tested extra set of ears on it, like in terms of mixing and mastering?
I think it's important. Like, I honestly would have rather gone to the studio to do that stuff because, like, the engineer knows more than us. Like, he's listening to these sounds and frequencies, and he knows.
Yeah,
he knows, you know. But in terms of saving money, like, sometimes you just don't have the money to spend on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or we would rather, like, we took that money and invested it in a van, you know, that we got for the record. Yeah,
because I've seen as well, you guys have been on tour quite a lot. Like, you've been all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
How is it touring that? And presumably, are you touring now? Do you do the thing where there's not a live drummer on the record, but there is live? Or are you going out with, like, sort of a groove box / tracks in that situation?
Yeah, so we just have backing tracks now that is controlled with like a foot controller. We just, I forget what the pedal's called, but lets you like upload, like, it's like a wave player, a foot switch controller.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just really,
I know what type of stuff.
Yeah, so it's just really easy to just play live like that. It's way better, honestly, like everything, like hotels, splitting up the money at the end, like everything is a little better.
Yeah, I suppose when you're running it, like when you're doing like the finance part of it, it is, isn't it? Because you've just got less going on. You need to ferry less equipment about, because again, like drum kit's massive, isn't it? And you just
yeah, we had like a half-size van, you know.
Yeah,
but it's really awesome. Like, I don't know, I it was kind of weird about how it was gonna go, because we went from having a drummer for like years to just all of a sudden not, and I thought it'd be weird, but it's kind of not that weird.
We've actually seen a few bands where they don't have a drummer, like a band that we went to see called The Midnight. The drummer's in the band, but he makes the beats, so he was just doing a whole host of different things, and he had just a Roland drum pad that he could just do tom fills and choice things on.
Oh, yeah.
Whilst he was doing the full Ableton set. And from a fan perspective, it's a bit weird at first, but then you don't really think about it. I mean, obviously, me and Peter would think about it a lot more because you're thinking about how it's all working on stage. But I think a lot of people have just got used to the idea of just seeing a singer on stage and nothing else.
Yeah, well, don't get me wrong, though, because people come up to me all the time and they're like, you guys are great, but you'd be better with a drummer. I'm like,
yeah, I can imagine people saying that.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like, I miss having a drummer, too, but it's just hard, like, just lots of conflicting schedules, you know, like, and then and also you have to be around these people all the time, so you want to make sure it's someone you all, like, vibe with. So it's just been, the solution has just been to cut that out and do the drum machine thing, and it's working pretty well.
I think that as you've shown, you definitely interested in like Coldwave and like Darkwave and these more electronic elements.
Oh yeah, definitely.
By not having to cater to the live drums, it actually opens up a complete different realm of production, because me and Mark have this thing in our own projects where live drums is unbeatable if you're making rock or shoegaze or anything that needs that energy. But if you start making very sort of sequence sounding beats, all of a sudden that live drum kit can be like the biggest obstacle in the composition.
Yeah. And with my new project, Lover's Guild, now I'm like, I know I'm going to do drum machine or backing tracks, you know? So like like before I wasn't writing for that, but now I'm like writing for that. And like I just bought a Hydrasynth. So I'm like I haven't played a show yet, but I'm like trying to like organize it so everything I'm writing and like it's just going to be easy to play live.
So we have literally just got a Hydrasynth as well. This is crazy.
Oh, hell yeah. How are you liking
it? It's actually unbelievably flexible. I was making a couple of patches, and we've actually been doing some sort of sample pack work with it for the next pack.
Oh, cool.
But it is...
nice.
I've not used it before, and I was quite unfamiliar with it, but it is really, really flexible. We've got which one's ours? Is it it's the light one?
It's the Explorer.
The Explorer. So have you got the big?
Oh, the Explorer, yeah.
Or have you gone for the Explorer?
Yeah, I have the Hydrasynth 49 key, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's the one above the Explorer, yeah.
Yeah, because I think
these things are awesome though. Like I was messing with it all day.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to mess with though, isn't there? Like, and it's quite intuitive really for a hardware synth. Like a lot of them have loads of little screens and that. That one has 2 screens, but it seems to display everything in a way that you can actually see. That's a lot more handy.
Yeah, it makes it pretty easy. Like, because I honestly, like, as much as I've used all the programs and like all the software synths and all this, like, it's still like awesome just to like go in there and like be able to tweak things with your hands. Like, that's why like right before this, I was trying to figure out a way to control like rack extensions or like VSTs with the Hydrasynth knobs. I don't know if that's possible or not.
I think to some degree it is. Yeah,
if you backclick MIDI lane on a lot of software and then dial it in, I'm assuming the Hydrasynth's knobs will have MIDI functionality, but they may not.
I know. If you can, it should have. I would have thought
they do. Yeah, I think
so.
I was going to say I'd be surprised if they didn't have MIDI functionality personally. But yeah. You should be able to get on the combinators. There's a lot of MIDI CC stuff built in, but I think that's to send MIDI CC stuff out actually. Because I have tried making. We've got some stuff where we control the keyboards with the combinator, but I don't know if you can do it the other way around off the top of my head without like getting really into it.
I think that is my solution because I was like, how do I like control what I want to hear, like, because I know I can go in and like map the parameters like one by one, but I don't want to do that every time when there's so many parameters on this soft synth.
Yeah.
So I think the solution is just to make a combinator and like map like the 8 most important things to me, and then control that.
Yeah. You mean like with the soft synths? Yeah, I think you can do that. In terms of third-party synths like VSTs, I don't know how flexible it is, but in terms of like the first-party Reason stuff, oh yeah, you could do that all day.
Yeah, and like just playing around with the Hydrasynth, like it's way more intuitive and just feels better to just be twisting knobs and like messing around. You know, I like just instead of like pointing a mouse and then like not being that accurate. You know, like.
I think,
or for me, like my keyboard's on the right side, so I have to like be crossing my arms to like get my mouse. Like, yeah.
I think for a lot of people, particularly if you've started like with a DAW and on like your just whatever computers in your house, there's something like almost like a kid in a candy store when you get your first piece of hardware kit and you've got like the keys. I mean, for some people produce just with the laptop keyboard, don't they? So even just having like a keyboard row.
Oh yeah, I used to do that.
It's such a like a nice feeling because you go, this is like a real instrument. And I think for a lot of people, you do look at a keyboard and go, that's a real instrument. And you think like digital and sort of like physical almost. And there's something so nice about it. I mean, that's why we've got a lot of hardware gear here. Obviously, it's nice to be able to just grab something and say, I want this box to take me through a full session. And I actually saw that, I can't remember the producer, but LCD Sound System gave somebody an advice And the advice was make an entire EP with one synthesizer. And that was the advice. Do every single sound of the EP just with one keyboard. And that...
I like that. And
like,
I was actually going to try that. I was going to try yeah, because there's like so many things you could use and so many different options and sounds. And just like, I'm like, sometimes you feel a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, and it's like a way to train your brain to say, this is the limitation. This one synth in front of me, synth or drum machine, or pair it if it doesn't have drums, obviously. But yeah, you can just make a full EP.
Yeah, I've been trying to just use the Hydrasynth because I'm like, this is what I'm going to use live. Like, so I just got to actually have the sounds in here, you know, and know how to make them.
Yeah.
So like the last few songs I've done have been like all Hydrasynth, like, you know. But I've been using like, I like your drum kits. I'm looking at the Retro Days 1 right now.
Yeah.
It's cool because you guys have that little pattern select knob or whatever. I'm like, that's like really smart.
Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that, because I never know if anybody even knows that's there. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then I was like, hold up, how does this work? And I'm like trying to deconstruct the combinator and everything. I'm like, this is really awesome. Like, and then now I'm getting excited about combinators. Now I'm like, you could do so much stuff. Like,
yeah, they're very, very powerful. And what we try to do with them is we try to build upon like what we've already done. So I try and, instead of like remapping all of that every time, which would be hell on earth.
Yeah.
I do it once, I get everything right, I bug test it, and then I go, right, time to just change out all the sounds and stuff like that. So that's like a workflow tip with combinators.
Yeah.
Is you build the engine, as I look at it, a bit like you would in something like Contact, and then you build the presets. So that's what I try to do with it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And then I've been just looking through a bunch of different ones to trying to deconstruct them. Like, how did you guys do that pattern select thing? Did you go in there and individually make each pattern?
Yes.
Or is like randomized? Oh, okay. No, I figured.
And I change.
That's crazy. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, I change it up on some of them. So like on GHS 15, with it being drum and bass, I made sure that if you set it to drum and bass tempo and then hit like the pattern mode, there would be mostly drum and bass style beats and stuff. But it's it like you say, it is a lot of work to make like 32 patterns, because that's not really even a feature that I advertise. That it's just in there.
And I think it's an important one. You probably should, because I was like, this is really badass. And then it's making me want to just build my own. Like, now I see the possibility in these, because I didn't really get it at first. I was like, all right, you could just stack a bunch of instruments, like, all right, whatever. But now you can like really get in there and like do some real cool stuff.
Yeah, Peter was really into the idea, and it took me a little bit of convincing when he initially started. But I think the main thing you focused on, Peter, was usability. You wanted it to immediately be usable as soon as you pulled up a patch, because a lot of sample packs, they just say, here's this kick sample, do something with it. And then a lot of people go, well, what do I do with it? You know, do you put it in a player? Do you just put the WAV on the track? You know, whereas like you say with the inbuilt patterns and stuff like that, it's immediately usable and musical, so that even if you don't care for what the combinator's doing, you can use it like an instrument.
Exactly. Like, I could just pull up that little pattern select and then just like flip through them. Like, I could assign that knob to, you know, the Hydrasynth or something, and then just be like playing the actual Hydrasynth, and then be turning that knob, and then like the different drum patterns will be playing, and then I could just go be writing a song from there, you know?
So would that be a way of sort of like inspiring like an idea? Would you like set like a drum beat off and then get on the Hydrasynth and see what sort of sounds come up first, then go, oh, is this like a seed of an idea?
Yeah, definitely. Like, before I was programming the drums myself, you know, I was clicking in the drums into the sequencer. Like, I love doing that. I play drums myself, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just way easier. Like, these are all the patterns I would make anyways. Like, I don't have to go in there and individually make them myself.
I think it doesn't hurt to have like a 4 to the floor like pattern, does it? Like,
Yeah,
there's so many.
It's easy. Like,
so many beats, you just like, just give me 4 to the floor so I can figure out what I'm making first, and then you can think about it.
Exactly. And then I can go, and then from there I go in and like I'll create my own pattern, like in variations, and you know.
Yeah, you just want like when you like sit down to make a track, you want like to feel like you're on a rolling start. There's nothing worse than like sitting down and going, yeah, I've been at this for like an hour and a half and I haven't even really got anything on like in the MIDI or in audio or anything. So just to be able to start with like a 4 to the floor or a basic beat and then put some chords over it, you're already like halfway there sometimes.
Exactly. Like not like now my projects are like 2 files, like a drum machine thing and then the audio track from the Hydrasynth. Like that's how I start, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's just way easier because I don't have to like, I'm not programming that much. I'm just going for it like immediately because I like to be in the flow. Like when I have a songwriting mode and then I have like a producing mode, you know?
Yes, I think it's very important as well, like to be able to separate the songwriting from the production, because I think sometimes like the songwriter in you is just like, let's add loads and loads and loads of layers and let's make it real massive. And then sometimes the producer part of you comes in and says, yeah, this sounds really cluttered and messy, or you know, are all these fighting for space? So I think to have like to be able to compartmentalize your brain in that sense really helps when you actually have to be the person who sits there and mixes it.
Yeah, exactly. Like writing the song is way faster if you don't focus on like how it sounds immediately, and then you just go right back like after the fact and then tweak stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's how I like to do it.
Yeah. So going back to like, as we said, like Coldwave and like Darkwave and stuff, do you have like any records that are like your go-to in this genre?
Oh yeah, Asylum Party. Pretty much anything they do. They have what are they called? I have them right here. Borderline's amazing. Mede, I think it's called. The third album's amazing. Their first album's amazing. Like Clan of Zamox is really good. Yeah, when it comes to that kind of sound, for sure.
And what sort of led you into this sort of like sound palette, as you will? Like, where did you hear it first, and where did you hear like the actual genre tag of Coldwave? Because I think that's really important. Like, for example, for me with synthwave, I was trying to make it, and I didn't even know it was a thing. And then when I found like the name synthwave, and I could actually Google it and go, oh, this is a thing people are already doing. What am I doing? I don't even know what the scene is. You know, did you find that like cool?
That's how I felt, because like like right before we started fearing, I didn't know about any of that stuff. I just like the sounds kind of that came in like Reason, like the dark ones. Like I was just going through the presets, and so then I just started listening to music that sounded like that, doing like YouTube deep dives, and then that led me into like Coldwave and like goth and stuff. And it was using the same sounds as like rap, you know, like literally the same drum machine, same synthesizers, but put differently. And I'm really attracted to all those sounds. So like I love rap, I love goth, you know. So then from there, yeah, it just all sounds amazing. Like
yeah, I do think that it's crazy how versatile some synths and drum machines are, and obviously, like when I think about rap music, you know, you think about the classics like 808s and that sort of stuff, 909s. Well, that's more housey, I suppose. 808s mainly, and though, you know, like just a few drum machines are just scattered across like almost every single music genre. Like particularly when you look at like electronic or certain like pockets of different subgenres or you know, like genre trees get so complicated, you almost lose your mind trying to figure out where one ends and where one starts. But I suppose that is the best thing about genres, and how certain instruments can be used universally but also extremely nichely to do certain things really well.
Definitely. Because then I was like, all right, when I wanted to get like a hardware synth, I was like, what do I need? Like I was like, I was kind of looking in Reason. I was like, all right, I really love like Europa, you know? So what is a real synth that sounds like that, you know? And then I just kind of was doing my research, and then I landed on the Hydrasynth.
So the Hydrasynth is like, would you say it's your first like big piece of kit that you've actually splashed out on then?
Yeah, definitely.
Ah, cool. So you was looking, yeah, because as you say, Europa, if you like Europa, the Hydrasynth has that wavetable engine sort of in it, doesn't it, when you're flicking about with the oscillators?
Yeah.
Did you find that like the main appeal to you, that it could do a lot of powerful stuff, but there was like a lot of flexibility in them wavetables?
Yeah, well, I was like, because I had already been writing songs for my new project, you know?
Yeah.
So I was literally in the store, in the music store, like, there was 2 walls of synthesizers, and I was like going between this one and then there's like I think it was a Roland, like, what is it? What's the new one? Like JX or something like that. But I was going.
There's so many.
There's a Gaia too.
Yeah.
That's the latest one that I can think of.
Yeah.
I don't even know, but yeah, I was just like going between them and like, all right, which sounds are the ones that I use? Like, which ones are the ones I make? And I was like trying to make them on both of them, and like every time the Hydrasynth would win, like in terms of like. At least to my ears, sound quality and like just straight up flexibility.
Yeah, I mean it is very impressive. We got a lot of Roland kit as well, so I think though that what the Hydrasynth does is that flexibility, and it is like when you compare it to Europa, I think that's a really good comparison, because Europa, I didn't realize how good it was until I actually sat down and said,
it's so good.
Yeah, I sat down and thought, I'm gonna really get stuck into this thing, because I was actually trying out Vital, the free wavetable synth, on a friend's recommendation, and then I realized when I was flicking through Reason, I never really looked at some of the engines. So I looked and saw that you could put your own wavetables in Europa, and I thought, oh well, I'll get stuck into Europa. And when I actually did, I was like, whoa, this is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's already in there. You don't have to buy it like separately. It's right there.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's a really good synth. I feel like it's underrated, or maybe it's, I don't know. I feel like Reason in general is underrated.
Do you know what? I was just about to say that, literally those exact words. I think Reason is like not looked down upon, but it's sort of just, when you look at all of the logos for the Doors, it's sort of the one that feels like forgotten about, and a lot of people sort of, particularly on social media, sort of fight their cause for why Ableton or FL Studio or Pro Tools is so good, and Reason's just sort of like in the middle of that, and nobody's really like, from what I can tell, there's not really anybody repping Reason
except the Reason gang. There is the Reason gang.
There's a Reason gang,
but in you're talking about in like the standard,
mainstream,
the
sort
memes,
of, even like memes is a good
the
way.
Instagram memes. Then the Instagram memes, we need more Reason representation. That's what you're saying, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could say that maybe the people who use Reason like Reason, but they maybe don't scream and shout about it like the other dog.
Yeah, that's because Reason's like a secret, and you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, we want to keep it
it
low key. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want everybody else to be on Reason, because then you're gonna lose your power. That's the thing. That's
right.
Reason's next marketing campaign. It's like, shh, don't tell anybody about Reason. You have the leg up.
But in all fairness, Reason, when it comes to like what you get as part of the software, it definitely has the best first party instruments and effects.
It really does.
Comparison.
Yeah, it really does.
Like Cubase, I would say Cubase is my favorite DAW, but I barely use anything that comes with Cubase. I use all the third party stuff that we've got. I mean, I'll often use Reason as an instrument in Cubase just because I find Cubase's sequencer a bit easier for me. But like I say, it's crazy when you look at what the other DAWs offer to what Reason has. Reason has almost everything you could want, and you feel like you can use Reason synths without feeling cheap about it. Whereas I do feel like with Pro Tools, especially, if you're using Pro Tools' built-in stuff, you're almost like, why am I using this freemium stuff? You know,
Yeah.
It's like one of the most expensive ones, but I do know what you mean.
It just has
Yeah,
that
that makes
feel
sense.
to it, though. It's hard to describe or quantify, but that's just the feeling I get. Whereas when you use like something like Europa or Synchronous or anything like that, you're like, this is really fancy tech. Just the way I think they make it look, and the way, because you can flip it over and wire it in and change everything. Reason just feels a lot more like specialized as instruments, because that's what it was initially built as, was
yes.
just instruments.
And to me, it's just more fun. Like, I don't know. I just love the way it looks. Like, I think that has a lot to do with it, honestly. Like, if I pull up Ableton, it's like so boring looking. Like, I can't
look at Ableton.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. Like, so uninspiring.
That's what Mark says every time I'm on Ableton. He's like, it looks so boring. That's all he ever says.
You look at it and you're like, am I looking at a compressor or a synth? You have to look at it and start reading everything because it's obviously all of them's just little grey boxes. I know anybody who loves Ableton's going to hate my guts right now, but that's how I feel because I'm very visual when I'm looking for stuff, and Ableton's just all grey.
Yeah,
it's all grey and yellow boxes and knobs. And you know, my brain's going, what am I looking at? And you're having to read all the little tags just to remember what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I pull up like something on Reason, and like I want to turn those knobs because it looks fun. Like, or you know, any new device that comes out looks fun to me. Like even, and that's why I like combinators. Like that's a whole extra layer, you know. There's even more depth in there. Like it's fun.
Yeah, we find ourselves spending a lot of time making our combinators look like it fits into Reason, because like graphic design wise there's like a really high bar, so you're like right, I want to make this look like it's in Reason, and you're like, oh, this isn't good enough, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board.
And I think also what we've tried to do is a bit like Reason. We've tried to make all of the packs look a little bit like hardware inspired, instead of just like having a JPEG slapped on the back of like a Sunset, which doesn't really fit that sort of vibe that Reason's got.
Yeah, I love the layouts you guys have. Like I said, it's making me want to make my own. I'm seeing the possibility in it now.
It's really fun. I've enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I want to like start forming my own synths and like map them out to like my. I just got a Nano Control 2.
Oh yeah.
And just have things be easy. Like when I sit down to make music, I want to like sit down and make music. I don't want to like have to tweak a bunch of things and like, you know, I just want to pull up a instrument and a drum machine and like start doing it.
Yeah, that's the worst part about using a lot of hardware sometimes, is like I've sat down and gone, I want to use these two synths that we've got and like these three drum machines, and then you're trying to plug it all in and send MIDI across the 5 and then try and do like a jam where you're programming stuff, and then like you say, it's been an hour or two and you're just like,
by that time you're just
interfacing. And it's almost like a thorn in your side, because you're trying to have fun and you're looking at the instruments in front of you like, this should be fun, but you're still plugging it all in, because it's not, you like when you're placing it all down and it's not pre-set up, you're having to think about all these different things before you even sit down to start making an idea. And then it's like, oh, I just wish that I sampled this and already had the sounds on the PC.
And that's why I love presets and like preset packs. Like I just love going through the folders, seeing what other people make, and like kind of deconstructing them or like tweaking them. And I don't know. So for me, it's easy, especially when I was doing the rap stuff. Like there's literal folders, you know, like one finger chords and stuff like that. And then like the rappers would just look through the actual folders and be like, go to this one. And then we just flip through all the presets. Like we didn't really have time to make our own sounds or anything. We would just be flipping through them and then I'd tweak after they left.
Yeah, because it's to get, like, the full point, isn't it, is to get the session going. Because as you're saying, in a lot of, when you're working with like external clients, you're like, right, well, you know, essentially it's like time is money. You might only have 3 hours. It's like, we got to walk out of here with like a beat or a beat and a rap.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, you don't have time to sit there saying, I'm just going to go through the MIDI CCs and just make sure everything's set up. And then people be like, right, well, it's home time now. You know, we're done.
Yeah, and that's how I was at first. Like everyone would come over and then I would just start tweaking on like, or I'll just start making my own sounds and like going slow, and like everyone would just be so bored, you know? And just like it would just be awkward. So then I like had to really learn how to pick things up, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna start flipping through presets and I learned what folders they liked, so I would just always go back to the same folders. So yeah, it was awesome, super easy.
Do you think that's like one of the hardest parts of being a producer in that role that you're talking about, is just getting it down fast and not letting the creativity sort of leave the room, and sort of saying, look, we've got the idea, let's capture it with whatever, and then as you said, you can go back, you can tweak it later.
It's super important. Like you have to be fast. And then like it's funny because I would just start to make a beat. Like I would do like you know, like one synth, and then I would go in and add like a bass line, and then he'd like, at least for 1100, he'd be like, all right, that's good. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, throw me on. Like, you know, I hadn't even made the beat yet and he wanted to be on it.
I imagine it's like all in his head. He's like, he hears like that spark of inspiration. And he's like, I've got all the bars I need now. I can just go.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'd make the drums after, you know?
Oh, so would this be like he's rapping drumless? Is that the idea?
Yeah, he'd be rapping drumless. Like, it wouldn't even be the click or anything. He would just like, I would just straight up to the loop of the little synth or whatever.
That's talent right there. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really good. You guys should check him out.
Yeah, I will be. Yeah, I will be. Because so rap isn't like my strong point in terms of what I know.
Yeah.
But I know like bits and pieces. So like one of the main rap songs, like when I'm talking about it being drumless and being impressed, like one of the main songs that I've heard is "Bound 2" by Kanye West that has no drums, and I always found that bizarre because the way that I always thought about like rap and hip hop and all them sort of more speech driven genres is that it's, you know, all about the rhythm, and the rhythm tends to come from the drums. So it's like almost like a re-education of how to approach it when somebody does something drumless, because you're like, well, oh, the rhythm's the voice, and you know, sometimes if you're not well versed in the genres, that can never even like occur to you.
Yeah. And like there'd be other times where I would just start making the drums first, and then they'd be like, all right, let me hop on it, and like no other instruments. I'm like, wait, what? It was weird. Yeah, but it's cool. Like they taught me like
very versatile.
Yeah, they taught me a bunch of different ways to like produce and record, just like from experience, you know, like just going through weird tactics like that.
Yeah, that sounds like a really fantastic experience, like in terms of like getting like some chops, as it would be, in terms of being a producer. Because then you've got your own sort of projects to like get into the detailing of things and like the slow pace of it. But then when you do stuff like that, you then get that quick rhythm, as we were saying. So how did you actually like get into doing Lover's Guilt then? Like, because you've been making music with Fearing for like a couple of years, like since 2017. So how did Lover's Guilt like spin off as like a side project or main project?
Yeah, so it's gonna be like probably my main project right now. Like I'm loving it. I'm just loving writing the music. Basically, honestly, I was writing songs for Fearing, and there was like a couple of songs that I showed them and they just didn't like them, and I was like, that's weird. Like I know these songs are cool. And then that's when I made my first EP, and then I pretty much wrote all those songs like with a guitar, you know, like band style.
Yeah.
And then after they're like, well, they just didn't say anything. They didn't say yes or no to the songs, so I just like, I'm just gonna take them and make my own thing because I know they're good. And then I just remade them, but with like synths. And then I was like, all right, for this project, I'm gonna do no guitars. But I think now I'm gonna start adding guitars because I want to have like the most possibility, or you know, the most options, flexibility when it comes to making the music.
Yeah, that seems like that rings very familiar with me, because we have like a rock project that we do, but then I started making a synthwave like as a side project.
Yeah,
and part of that was using drum machines and not really using guitars, because I play guitar. That's like my main instrument.
Yeah.
And so my full thing with that was to get away from playing guitar and just mainly use synths. And I found that to be quite an educational way of like making music, because you sort of place yourself outside your comfort zone in a way.
Yeah.
But I'm presuming you have a lot of experience actually playing keys, because when I was listening through the Fearing records, there's a lot of keys in some of them songs. Would I be right in thinking? Because it definitely sounded like there was. If not, there was some crazy pedal chains going.
Yeah. We have a bunch of synthesizers in the back, like that. Yeah, we still write all that stuff, like. But yeah, with the Lover's Guilt stuff, it was. I kind of wanted to do like, all right, I'm gonna do like just synths, like definitely unexplored territory for me. So it's just fun, like. And now that I'm like really into it, I'm like have like half an album written. It's like pretty sick.
Yeah, is having like is doing an album going to be the next project? Do you think then?
I think I'm doing a EP first. It's gonna be both that, and I think the album are gonna be released through Funeral Party Records, which is the first record label that Fearing was on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the plan is to do an EP first, but it's just hard, like, because it's only like 4 songs, and I have like probably 20 songs to choose from, and I just keep making more. I just want to keep finding. I want to find like the best 4 songs. it's just hard to like narrow it down.
Yeah,
for me.
so you've got like the opposite problem to what a lot of people have, where some people are like, oh yeah, I have the EP, but I just don't have any songs. Whereas you're like, well, I have too many songs. So now, like you say, that's when it's hard, because you've got to make them decisions of, well, which ones, even though you might, you probably like all 20 in a certain sense, to narrow it down to 4 is going to be like really tough.
It's really tough. I feel like that's what, because like some songs, like I was writing one the other day, and I threw vocals on immediately, and then like that seems like the most finished one, but then I'll just go back to the other beats and I'm like, oh, these ones are really good too. I just haven't thrown vocals on them, so it's just hard to like, do I go with them? I don't know. It's just hard to pick. Like, it's so hard.
Yeah, we're working on a project at the minute, and it's that classic case of the song that was written last is finished first.
Yeah, exactly.
So then it makes it really tough, because you're trying to think, well, but if the latest song is the best song, and the one that's finished the fastest, surely the song after that
exactly. That's exactly what's happening to me right now.
And then you end up in that scenario where you sort of like, but I want to finish all these songs, but like the new songs seem to be happening faster. So if we chase the new songs, then we'll have it just as fast as if we just work through the old ones. And then it's just, it can be like that when you're recording and when you're trying to make like a project, because you always think the next idea is the idea that's going to like give you the sound that you need to tie it all together.
For real.
And it just ends up, it's your worst enemy. And it's like the jokes you always see of like people saying new song idea, and then there's the picture of the 1,000+ song ideas that are still left unfinished. And that's what it's like for a lot of people.
That's my folder right now. Like, yeah, honestly, I feel like every new song I make is better than the last. Like, because at first I was like, all right, I'm just gonna write 4 songs, and then I wrote the 4 songs, and then I sent some to the label, and he's like, these are awesome, and I was like, all right, let me just like write some more songs. But now I'm on like song like 21 or something like that, and then I'm like, each one is better than the last, and I'm like, I don't even like the original 4 anymore. So it's just, I'm like, it's hard to like stop.
Yeah, particularly if the label's like, but I really like the first 4.
Yeah, exactly. But then I sent him the new stuff. He's like, I like these ones too. So I'm like, you're gonna have to help me with this, because I don't even know.
Wow, that's great though. There's nothing better than feeling like you're on a winning streak, I think, when you're making music, because some people get into like a spiral where they have the opposite happen. They try and make a new idea and they can't get it down. So I think when you do get in that headspace where you're like, I'm really liking what I'm making, you got to just keep going in on it, because that's like the funnest part about making music.
Yeah, and then now that I have like the new synthesizer, like the hardware synth, and like going into combinators and stuff, like just so many different sounds that I wasn't using before, it's just opening up my options. Like, yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun now. I think that's like the most important part, is just to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah,
in
100%.
the process.
I mean, having fun is what keeps music fun, I think. And a lot of people can get like sort of taken like the atmosphere goes, because they're trying to achieve something that maybe feels just out of grasp. But I think a lot of the time, the more you do it, the better you get, and that's where the fun is. And if you're always getting better, you're gonna get to where you want to be eventually. Like if you've got a really high bar, like some people set themselves impossibly high bars, it's just nice to try, and you've got to look at it and go, well, every song's better than the last, so I'm having fun doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, you just have to have fun, like, and then you just have to put it out there too. Like, that's probably my problem. I just have to like decide, because realistically, yeah. I think they're all good.
Have you thought about perhaps doing like, you could always use the songs that don't make the cut for the final record as like a bonus, like Bandcamp subscriber content or something like that?
Yeah, I thought about doing.
I
thought about doing like the EP, like 4 songs, and then throwing in a couple of extra songs for Bandcamp.
Yeah, because I was there's this artist one of the guys from the Midnight called Tyler Lyle. I'd seen a lot of people do like these Bandcamp subscriber things, but he was doing one. I really like that band, so I got it and just thought, I'll see what he's doing. And he was pumping out so much music. Like the creative person in me was like, how are you putting out this much music? And at the quality it was as well, was amazing. And I was like, well, I suppose most musicians, they make like a high volume of music. It's just, as you're saying, you have to be quite selective with what you put out in some cases, especially if you're working with labels, because you can't just put out like 6 albums in a year unless you're like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, no, exactly.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then that's what we did for Fearing too. Like both of our albums, like we wrote like probably like 30 plus songs, like 30 plus demos, and we had to narrow it down. And like it's hard because some of them are really, really good. Like we probably should have done that. Like we probably could have made like a double LP on the last one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could always. I don't want to tell you what to do, but you could always consider maybe doing like as you were saying, maybe a Bandcamp bonus or a Bandcamp like deep cuts or lost cuts thing. I've seen a couple of artists do. Particularly, this is really popular in synthwave to do like a sort of
Here's
lost
the songs
gems.
that didn't make it, sort of.
Yeah. Like here's the ones that that didn't go on the album. That seems really popular at the moment. I feel like, especially on Bandcamp, because Bandcamp you're connecting directly with your fans. I'm not sure how it works if you're on a label, so I will say I don't know how the exclusivity goes, but presumably you could put stuff out. But again, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, my friend's band Softkill, they have been throwing up just demos like on Spotify. Like they're pretty big too, but they just like have all their demos, and like if you go through them, like I think he's just uploading whatever he wants now on top of the studio stuff. And I'm like, that's a really cool way to do it, because it'll like specifically say like whatever the title is, and then right next to it say demos.
You see,
and I was like, that's awesome.
I agree. I think that is awesome, because there's a lot of anthology box sets coming out from like legacy acts, like say like the Beatles, where you get like 50 different takes of back in the USSR.
Yeah, that's sick.
And I think, well, surely that exists for most modern bands as well. And I think to put out demos, if you're not into it, you just don't have to listen. But if you are into it, it's more like content that you want from your, like, say, your favorite artist or whatever, or an artist you really like.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, particularly like creative people, they like to listen to the demos so they can listen and go, so you got from this, this turned into that. And how did that turn into this? If you know what I mean? Like, because when you make music, you listen to a demo and you go, whoa, that bit's say completely different, or how did they, change the arrangement or the tempo or whatever it is that makes it like a final cut. It's
funny because like even for like the most recent, like for Fearing's biggest song, like I Was So Alive off our last album.
Yeah.
I wrote that for Lover's Guilt actually, and I wrote that completely on synths. So like, and then so it sounds way different, like way different than the actual version that's out. Like, and then we made I did the opposite. Like, then we made it guitars, So it's kind of crazy. Like,
it goes both ways, I suppose, doesn't it? With that creative process, like the idea isn't necessarily the way it's been composed. It can just be the or say the way it's produced. Like you say, you can take a electronic idea and make it a rock idea, and vice versa. And I think that's a really great way to get like inspired, like with like the chords and like the melody in a way that you wouldn't be able to if you was just like in a rehearsal room.
Yeah, exactly. Now that I think about it, because like I moved down to LA, so James is in Oakland. Me and him are the songwriters for Fearing.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, mostly we've been doing that, like just writing all the songs on synths and stuff, and then sending between each other. And yeah, then when we meet up, we turn it into a full band thing. So it's kind of crazy now that I think about it.
Yeah, because you're doing like a remote workflow, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which is like a really interesting way, like, to think of a band dynamic, because you think of a band and you think everybody has to be in the same room, sort of like jamming it out. But like you're finding that, you can actually write these songs, be it in like a different sort of arrangement, with it all being synths and that, and then bring them into like a rehearsal space essentially, and turn them into these like full band compositions, which I think that's a really cool and creative way of doing songwriting.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll have all that, and then like when we do meet up, like say for like a tour or something, then we'll bust out the guitars and be like, all right, what can we like throw or change or like, make work for the band?
Yeah.
You just turn like this into that.
It really is like doing a couple of like different genre projects myself, it like surprises you because you think you know like the way that you work, and then you try a different approach and you go, "Wow, I would have never wrote that like that if I would have started on, say, like on a guitar or on a bass or whatever." So I think it is like it's a good learning curve as a songwriter. I mean, I suppose you could turn that into advice in a way. Like if you always write on a piano, try writing on a synth because the way them sounds actually. The way you perform with them changes the way you play a lot of the time.
Exactly. You're like, yeah, there's a bunch of different things you could do. Like, if you always start with the guitars, start with drums, you know? That's something I always do.
Yeah.
Like, I always try to switch it up, like, what I start with, because it's just different. Like, I feel like it opens up your creative, I don't know the word, but yeah.
Right, and to wrap up, Brian, where can our listeners find your project?
For Fearing, you could check out Spotify, or it's on all that stuff. The Instagram is at A Life of None, fearing.bandcamp.com. For my new project, Lovers Guilt, it's at lovers.guilt on Instagram and loversguilt.bandcamp.com. For rap stuff, you can just go to 1100 himself on SoundCloud and scroll down. It's all right there.
All right, thanks for that, Brian. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks for listening.